gets out of the car and he walks across the gravel-snowed mixed lot and then steps on the freeze. The steps are frozen about the front door of the Grange Hall. There is a sign, the Wayside Theater. He changes the name of the hall in his head to the Lakeside. He begins his ploy of collecting names and places and memories of his story. He tries the door. It is locked. He goes to the window and he goes to look in, and it is frozen over. The ice blocks the view inside the theater. He notices a whiteboard with the markings from a red dry erase marker. Till the next time we write. It is an audition. It is an audition for a play from last season. Auditions 10/3. The sign reads in green sweeping handwriting. He returns to the car. This time without shivering. He doesn't recognize the road. He has a hunch, though. He has a hunch he has gone too far. It's the makeup of the road. The path could be the temptation of the devil. A way to get lost in this cold. A way to fall into temptation of the winter. A way to fall. A way to fail. The driver of the car is from the South. He is known as Jonah Samuel Camden III, born in Texas 38 years and 7 months ago. He came into the world in the summer, the hottest time of the year in Fort Worth. Now, ice is frozen in patches over the car. The windshield must be wiped now and then so he could see the icy road ahead, wiped from the inside the windshield with a scarf that he had been fastening around his neck. Texas is too far. Texas is too far, far from him now. The phone reads 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, as a man, he crosses the bridge toward a small town in Maine. Failures disguised in little yellow white lines. Failures and little white lines. Failures and little white lines. Failures disguised and little yellow and white lines. Lines passing under the car as he rumbles across the speedway highway. And more lines, some covered in patches of ice mounds, some lines covered in mud, some lines covered in melted water. Some lines covered in mud, some lines covered in melted water, and in the mud season lines covered where the tracks are washed away and paths are never formed. Some lines are covered in time, some lines in words. Some lines are covered. Jonah says as he types on the smartphone. He speaks aloud, and paths are never formed again. He says as he types on the keyboard much later at his computer desk. Sometimes he forgets, and sometimes he sits in silence and stares, and other times he smiles and remembers the beauty of the rolling hills of Maine. He is in a different place. He is far south, remembering the beauty that he once lived in. He remembers the struggle. Remember the struggle with the mill. Remember the struggle with the cold. Remember the loneliness. He remembers how Christ had blessed the wilderness time, a time of wonder. Bless this time where he walked in the wilderness of his life. Maine was a place of memory. Maine is a place of memory. Maine is a place you never forget. I don't want to forget, he says as he continues to type. Failures, staining, and demanding that perhaps his sins could never be washed away. He runs from God as Jonah did. Then a contradiction arrives. Contradictory as the north and the south. You have no business here, son. The whispering voice announces within the shadows of swaying pine. Endless whitely frosted trees before his high beams. A yellow sign with buck leaping catches his eye. The car travels past Guff Street. He slows and turns, his blinker on. He turns into Guff. These are merely tempting plots that have tagged along now. Lies that have accompanied him with the long drive. Don't listen, just don't listen, he says. He listens anyway. The only other choice is to stop the car and merely open the door and let the freeze in. Let the icy winds overcome him. He is parked in Guilford now before a furniture store. There are antique street lamps hugging the road and lighting up the large window, reflecting the houses stacked along the shoulder on the road. He scraps the inside of the front windshield with the end of the wool sweater's sleeve, which he is now pulling over his palms. His hands are cold, but not numb. There is still a bit of warmth in the car. A small shaft sips through the clear patch he has made with his sweater. Covered hand. He notices all the windows are frozen over. There is a thin, icy skin that now covers all the windows of the car. He manages to wipe away a small section the size of his forearm. A section just big enough to see the river and blanket muddy sky above. Take note, he says aloud to himself. Windshields freeze on the inside here.